Yeah, I mean, last year Lamar Jackson had a 9% touchdown rate that easily led the NFL. And I mean, every single year when you have a quarterback that has like over a touchdown rate of like 6.5, 7%, you can always expect some sort of regression to the mean in terms of like just the percentage of throws that they're passing for a touchdown. But we're obviously, I think everybody's going to bake in some touchdown regression for the Ravens for sure. I think Lamar is going to go too early in drafts for me to be interested in him. But Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, like even J.K. Dobbins, like these guys are all, I don't think being selected right now in early ADP, being selected near their ceiling.
But here's a great stat for you. So last year, of 75 qualifying wide receivers, Marquise Brown ranked first in passer rating when targeted and 11th in fantasy points per route run. So basically, he spent the entire offseason rehabbing from a Liz Frank surgery. That's typically a massive disadvantage for any rookie wide receivers when you're missing an extended period of time during training camp. But then he spent 9 of 16 games on the injury report listed as questionable. And then during the regular season, he played on only 58% of Baltimore snaps when active. But during the postseason, the Unleashed Brown, he played on 85% of the snaps, and he turned 11 targets at 126 yards. And basically what you saw was when he was on the field, he produced. And he did that despite having screws in his foot and by his own admission, playing 158 pounds, by his own admission, playing, clearly, he lost a step, maybe 70%, 80% of who he typically was. And I believe it. Just love this guy's talent. And I think he's due for a monster year.
You have to start, and with no offseason, it will be more difficult for teams. But you have to start with what the Ravens are on offense.
Yeah.
They're the only team in the league whose offense starts philosophically and structurally with the quarterback as a runner and not as a ball distributor. Think about that.
Yeah.
So what that does is the defense now has to play certain ways. It creates a ton of conflict and pressure for defenses and creates a lot of defined and relatively easy throws by NFL standards. Now, in an off season, this is what coaches in the division are going to be working on all off season.
Sure.
And now with the schedule coming out, that's what teams will be working on. Now, he's a unique super talent as a runner, so I'm not saying he'll be shut down. But I spoke with Greg Roman at the Maxwell Club dinner back in early March. I think it was the last event before everything was shut down. It was in early March. And they talked about expanding what they do. And I think that's what the offseason was going to be about for them. Whether they have the opportunity to do it the way they want to now is a different question. But they really pose significant problems for defenses because of the way defenses had to play. And that's why it creates a ton of opportunities for Mark Andrews, theoretically creates a ton of opportunities for Hollywood Brown. So to be totally honest, I don't know how much expansion they can do, and we'll see how it plays out. But their offenses last year was different than every other offense in the NFL.
Adam, let's ask you about like the role here with J.K. Dobbins. I mean, it's not an easy call because, Gus Edwards was pretty damn good last year. He's well over 5 yards a carry. Good fit for what they do, spread them out and just tear them up the gut. J.K. Dobbins, I mean, there's a wide range of possible outcomes. I mean, he could emerge in the second half, or he could be, relatively worthless this year. I mean, long-term, we're all in. But what about this year for Dobbins?
Well, a couple things. First of all, this pick was made for the future, not particularly for this season. Number two, when you look at their situation at running back, Ozzie Newsome was the one who set it up, and now their personnel staff going forward with Eric DeCosta, who now is the general manager, is going to do the same thing. Even though taking Dobbins was not a need pick, they also have Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. They go by their draft board. If the pick next should be Dobbins by grade, it doesn't matter if they have 5 running backs on the roster. This is the guy they're going with. So I think sometimes we misunderstand what teams are doing. They're one of the teams that no matter what will stick by their draft board. It doesn't matter who the hell's on the board. This is the guy who's next. This is the guy we're taking. Now for this season, it's a 2-man backfield between Ingram and Dobbins. I think that's the way I see it. But Dobbins is their starter of the future. I don't think there's any question about that.